Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te delivers a bold warning to China, declaring Taiwan is not part of the People's Republic, vowing to strengthen defense, protect democracy, and stand firm against intimidation. Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te used a high-profile press briefing in Taipei to deliver one of his clearest messages yet on Taiwan's sovereignty, national security, and future relations with China, as tensions across the Taiwan Strait continue to shape regional politics. Entering the briefing room before a packed crowd of local and international reporters, Lai appeared composed and deliberate as cameras rolled and journalists prepared questions on Taiwan's increasingly strained relationship with Beijing. The event marked an important political moment for the Taiwanese leader, who has spent much of his presidency balancing calls for stronger defense with efforts to avoid open confrontation with China. Standing at the podium inside the presidential office, Lai listened carefully as reporters pressed him on military threats from Beijing, Taiwan's growing defense partnerships, and concerns over stability in the Asia-Pacific region. Throughout the appearance, he repeatedly emphasized Taiwan, its democratic identity, and insisted that the island's future could only be decided by its own people. Addressing the issue at the heart of cross-strait tensions, Lai firmly rejected Beijing's claim that Taiwan is part of the People's Republic of China. He said, "The Republic of China and the People's Republic of China are not subordinate to each other, and Taiwan is not part of the People's Republic of China. This is an indisputable fact." The remarks reflected the position Lai has consistently maintained since taking office. Beijing considers Taiwan part of its territory and has repeatedly declared that reunification remains a national goal. Taiwan's government, however, argues that the island already operates as a self-governing democracy with its own political system, military, and elected leadership. Lai's comments came at a time of growing military pressure around Taiwan. Over the past several years, Chinese military aircraft and naval vessels have increased operations near the island, developments Taiwanese officials describe as intimidation tactics designed to pressure Taipei politically and psychologically. During the briefing, Lai defended Taiwan's efforts to strengthen its military capabilities, arguing that increased defense spending was aimed at preserving peace rather than escalating tensions. He said, "We are increasing our defense investments because the threats are greater than ever, not to provoke, but to avoid war." The president continued by framing Taiwan's military preparations as a matter of self-protection. He said, "We are strengthening our self-defense capabilities, not to intensify conflicts, but to protect our people." Taiwan has expanded purchases of advanced weapon systems, upgraded military training, and increased cooperation with democratic partners in recent years. Officials in Taipei say those measures are necessary because of the growing scale of Chinese military activity around the island. Lai also highlighted Taiwan's internecine partnerships, stressing that cooperation with other democracies was intended to support regional peace and stability rather than create confrontation. He said, "We are cooperating with like-minded countries not to confront anyone, but to maintain peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait and the Asia-Pacific region." The comments reflected Taiwan's broader diplomatic strategy of strengthening ties with countries that share concerns about security in the Indo-Pacific region. Although Taiwan has limited formal diplomatic recognition internationally, it maintains close unofficial relationships with several major democracies, including the United States, Japan, and European partners. Security in the Taiwan Strait has become one of the most closely watched geopolitical issues in the world. Analysts warned that any military conflict involving Taiwan could have enormous economic and political consequences globally, particularly because Taiwan plays a central role in the global semiconductor industry. Despite the rising tensions, Lai attempted to present Taiwan as committed to peace and dialogue. At several points during the briefing, he emphasized that Taiwan's government was not seeking conflict with China. At the same time, he made clear that Taiwan would not compromise on issues involving sovereignty, democracy, or political freedom. He said, "We cherish peace, but we will not give up freedom." The president then addressed the possibility of future talks with Beijing signaling openness to dialogue under specific conditions. He said, "We are willing to engage in dialogue, but we will not accept being belittled." Lai's language reflected a carefully balanced political approach. While he maintained a firm position on Taiwan's self-rule, he also avoided directly advocating formal independence, an issue considered highly sensitive by Beijing. The Taiwanese leader continued by drawing what he described as a clear limit regarding negotiations with China. He said, "We seek stability, but we will not sacrifice our sovereignty or our democratic way of life. This is Taiwan's red line, and it is also Taiwan's clearest position to the world." Those remarks are expected to draw strong reactions from Chinese officials who have frequently criticized Lai and his Democratic Progressive Party administration for what Beijing calls separatist policies. Taiwan's government rejects those accusations, insisting that defending democracy and self-governance should not be interpreted as promoting separation. Throughout the press briefing, Lai repeatedly returned to the idea that Taiwan's democracy forms the foundation of its national identity. Taiwan transitioned from authoritarian rule to democracy in the late 20th century and now holds regular competitive elections with strong protections for civil liberties and political participation. For many in Taiwan, those democratic achievements have become deeply tied to the island's sense of identity, especially as political systems on the two sides of the Taiwan Strait have evolved in dramatically different directions. Lai also addressed relations with Beijing more directly near the end of the briefing, expressing willingness to maintain communication and exchanges if they were conducted respectfully. He said, "As long as there is parity and dignity, Taiwan is willing to maintain healthy and orderly exchanges with China." The president then expressed hope for peaceful coexistence and economic stability across the Taiwan Strait. He said Taiwan hopes to achieve the goal of peace and mutual prosperity with China. However, Lai also criticized Beijing's current approach toward Taiwan, accusing Chinese authorities of bypassing his administration and instead engaging more closely with opposition political groups on the island. He said, "But unfortunately, China has chosen to communicate and cooperate with opposition parties instead." The comment highlighted ongoing political divisions within Taiwan over how relations with China should be managed. Opposition parties generally favor broader dialogue and closer economic engagement with Beijing, while Lai's Democratic Progressive Party has focused more heavily on protecting Taiwan's sovereignty and reducing dependence on China. Political analysts say those divisions are likely to remain central to Taiwan's domestic politics in the coming years, especially as military tensions and economic competition continue to intensify across the region. The briefing also underscored the difficult position Taiwan faces internationally. While many Democratic governors support Taiwan's participation in global affairs and oppose the use of force against the island, most countries do not officially recognize Taiwan diplomatically because of pressure from Beijing. China continues to insist that other nations adhere to the One China principle, under which Beijing is recognized as the sole legitimate government of China. Taiwan rejects Beijing's sovereignty claims and maintains that its future should be decided democratically by its own people. As questions from journalists continued, Lai remained measured in tone, but increasingly direct in his language. Observers noted that he appeared determined to reassure both domestic and international audiences that Taiwan would continue strengthening its defenses while also seeking stability. The president's remarks come during a period of broader uncertainty in the Asia-Pacific region, where competition between China and the United States continues to shape military strategy, trade policy, and diplomatic alliances. Taiwan has become one of the most sensitive flashpoints in that rivalry. Military exercises near the island have increased in scale and frequency, while international concern has grown over the possibility of miscalculation or escalation in the Taiwan Strait. At the same time, Taiwan's strategic importance to global technology supply chains has made stability around the island an issue of worldwide economic significance. Taiwan is home to some of the world's most advanced semiconductor manufacturing companies, meaning disruptions in the region could have consequences far beyond East Asia. Despite the pressure, Lai used the briefing to project confidence and continuity. His administration argues that deterrence, democratic resilience, and international cooperation are essential to preserving peace. Taiwanese officials have repeatedly stated that strengthening defense capabilities is intended to prevent conflict by raising the costs of aggression. Beijing, however, views closer military and political ties between Taiwan and foreign governments as provocative. As the press conference drew to a close, reporters continued calling out questions while cameras tracked Lai stepping away from the podium. The atmosphere inside the room reflected the broader uncertainty surrounding Taiwan's future, a democracy facing increasing external pressure while trying to preserve stability and avoid confrontation. Lai's latest comments are likely to be closely examined not only in Beijing and Washington, but across capitals throughout the Asia-Pacific region. His remarks reinforce the central message that has increasingly defined his presidency. Taiwan seeks peace, remains open to dialogue, and wants stable relations with China, but will not accept pressure that undermines its sovereignty or democratic system. For Taiwan's leadership, maintaining that balance may become even more difficult as geopolitical tensions continue to rise. But during the briefing in Taipei, Lai made clear that his government intends to stand firmly by what it views as Taiwan's right to determine its own future.